Hello everybody, it's the most beautiful of days here in Cornwall. The sun is shining and there's a beautiful blue sky, so my walking boots and Bertie Boo are patiently waiting for me. But before I go out for a walk, I wanted to share a few things with you, and in particular a new model that has been finished. In January of last year, when I was at the Attic Needleworks Sampler Symposium, Jean and I sat down and we went through a choice of antique samplers, trying to decide which one Hands Across the Sea Samplers was going to reproduce specifically for the 2019 January Symposium. And we chose a beautiful sampler, Miss Elizabeth Charlotte Cotton, 1753. Boomer very kindly agreed to stitch the model for hats, and she finished a little while ago, and this week I have stretched and laced the model ready for framing. And before it goes off for framing, I'm going to share the model with you. So I'm very proud to present Miss Elizabeth Charlotte Cotton, and here she is. She is the most beautiful of samplers. Her colours are glorious. So there she is. So this sampler is being taught at the Attic Needleworks January Sampler Symposium in 2019. She will be available for general release in 2020. So even if you weren't able to get into the symposium, in 12 months' time you will have the opportunity to stitch this sampler. Now the stitches in this sampler are, put my glasses on a second, reversible cross stitch, marking stitch. Then there is cross stitch over one, satin stitch, Montenegrin stitch, double back stitch and Algerian eyelets. So she's a really interesting sampler, so there'll be lots to cover whilst I'm teaching her. And how I teach is through videos. When you attend a class with myself, you will be taking me home with you in a series of videos, so that when you eventually sit down at home to stitch your sampler, I will be there with you, and you'll be able to play those videos time and time again as you're stitching the sampler. Now, if you can't wait for 2020, there is another option for you. Elizabeth Charlotte Cotton is very, very similar to When Thou Art Rich, and this is the original When Thou Art Rich. She is the most beautiful and sweetest of samplers, and as you can see, these two samplers will clearly hang together very, very nicely. Like When Thou Art Rich was stitched on the finest of linen. You know, this linen must be at least 60 count. The two models will be much of the same size. So what you could be doing is this year stitching When Thou Art Rich, and then when Miss Cotton goes on general sale in 2020, you'll be able to stitch her. The chart for When Thou Art Rich, here she is. There are, I think, 12 colours, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 colours, and the stitches in When Thou Art Rich are cross stitch, satin stitch, Algerian eyelet, and then queen stitch, rococo stitch. So she's an interesting sampler as well. What else? Oh, I know what else I wanted to talk about. This week I've been chatting to a friend about lacing and stretching, and I was talking about why I laced and stretched as opposed to pinning a sampler on foam board. Well, I live close to the sea and my husband's had boats, and I know that even marine quality stainless steel can rust, especially in the environment that I live in. So I've never been able to trust pins, because I don't know if in 100 years' time my pins in this type of environment may show some sign of rust. And I can assure you, ladies, I have marine quality stainless steel hinges on this big set of French doors in this room, and this end of the house takes the full impact of the storms coming off the sea, and the salt air does corrode and rust stainless steel. So right, I lace and stretch, and this is what my lace and stretching looks like. My friend was asking how I went about lacing and stretching. Well, the first thing I do is I pick my frame before I cut my board, because frames have different rebates. So I go to my framers, I agree the frame I'm going to use for the piece, and then we work out the size of the mount board to with the rebate of the frame. And on this particular frame that's going on this sampler, I had to allow 1 centimetre from the edge of the stitching to where the frame was going to start, and 0.5 centimetre for the rebate under the frame. So when I got back from the framers, I stitched out a basting line 1.5 centimetres around the sampler from the edge of the widest stitching. And what I did then, I measured the halfway point on my linen and popped a little pin in the linen on all 4 sides. Then I measured my mount board, and on the mount board I marked in pencil the centre points of the sides. Then I placed my sampler over the top of the mount board, and I took 2 pins and I pinned the corner of the tacking, and put 1 pin one side of the corner, 1 pin the other, and I did that on all 4 corners. Then I took the pin that I'd marked the centre point of the sides of the linen and secured that pin onto where the pencil mark was on the mount board. I then knew that my sampler was completely and accurately centred on my mount board. So I then just worked my way around pinning the sampler, and I normally put my pins every sort of 3/4 of an inch around, and I do it by, so I've got my centre point, so I put the next point in the centre of the half, then I put the next pin in the centre of the quarter, and I keep on reducing down the distance that way, so I know that the sampler is evenly stretched and, or not stretched, but you know, it's evenly pinned, so I haven't got a bunch of fabric in any position around. Then I turn the linen and the mount board over, and then I, like this is a fairly square piece. If it was a longer piece, so say if it was this length, I would be lacing this way first, and then I would lace the longest way last. And basically you just fold your fabric over and you start lacing. And when I'm lacing, I'm not pulling my thread really tight, you can just see, you know, it's just sat there nicely. You don't want your linen being pulled and tugged. You don't want to put this under tremendous tension for the next couple of 100 years, because that will not do the linen any good. And over time, linen and cotton does just sort of age and you know, just you know, if you had a piece of cotton under tremendous tension over the years, that will break. So that is really how I stretch and lace. I'm not going to say time consuming, because that makes it sound painstaking. It does take a little while to do this properly, but then I always think that time is well spent if you are doing something properly. I think this probably took me maybe about an hour and a half to do, and I just listened to an audio book, or you know, you can listen to some music, and it's quite therapeutic actually, just lacing the piece. You don't have one very, very long strand of cotton. You would get in a dreadful tangle. If you can just see, can you see these? This is where I've had to join pieces of cotton on as I'm lacing. So there we have the stretched and lace Miss Elizabeth Charlotte Cotton, and she's now going to the framers to have her frame put on. Then she's going to the photographers to be photographed, and then I'm going to sit down and put her booklet together. And I'm very excited about her booklet because Elizabeth gave us her full name and a date. It meant that we could trace her. Now, you can't always trace girls, even if they give you a stream of names, but we were very lucky to find her. And it makes you realise that when you stitch your samplers, put your name, and if you've got a middle name, put your middle name on there as well. You know, maybe mention the town that you come from. In hundreds of years' time, there is no reason why your needlework could be as valuable and as appreciated as the needlework antique samplers are today. So think about that when you're stitching your samplers. Now, going off on a completely different tangent, on the last Flosstube video I did, I reviewed a storage system, which was one of these. And when I did that video, I said I was going to order some more, which I have. I ordered another 2. And here they are, and they all stack up nicely on each other. In this one, I have put some Auvert à Soie de Paris, which is a different size spool to the 103 I was talking about last time. You can fit 28 of these spools in one drawer. And also, with these spools, you can double them up. So you could actually fit 56 spools in one drawer. So that's quite a good storage unit. The other thing that fitted in nicely is the Londonderry linen. That fits in 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so that's 20 spools to a drawer. So you can actually fit in an awful lot in these little units. Now, I had a few emails from ladies saying that Amazon.co.uk do not ship this storage unit to the States. Well, the person who recommended this idea of storing silks actually lives in the US, and the system that she recommended wasn't available in the UK. what I did was I went on to amazon.co.uk and I put in clear acrylic storage units. And when you do that on amazon.com, for my US followers, you will find that there is a huge choice of storage. And these storage units all seem to be based upon storing cosmetics and jewellery. I was absolutely gobsmacked at the range of storage units for makeup. I think that people of my generation that has a little makeup bag with like a lipstick, a mascara, an eyeshadow, a blusher and foundation. Young girls don't have that. They seem to have so much makeup. You know, there's storage units for the home that you can have 50 lipsticks in. I can't even imagine ever using 10 different lipsticks, but there we are, that's the youth of today. So if you don't live in the UK, just go on the internet and search for clear acrylic storage units, and you just have to work out the size of the drawers and what you can put in them to see if they are suitable for storing needlework items. It's not just little drawers, they have storage systems to put like lipsticks and brushes in, so they're like little tubes that you can store things in, and I thought those would actually be great, especially the lipstick ones, for storing scissors, you know, sort of like blades down first so that the handles weren't protruding, a bit like those little sort of ceramic bowls that you see that you can put scissors in. So the lipstick makeup brush storage system would work for scissors. Now I've still got two other different types of storage units to come, but they're both coming from America, so they're going to take a little time. But when they do come, I will come back and show you what I think of those. Now I have used an acrylic storage unit before to store skeins of silk, and they work very, very well. But when I am reproducing samplers, I like to have a range of colours in front of me on my work table. Now, I spoke about this in the last video. I like to have all the colours laid out so that I can look and my eye can fall on a silk, and then I can take it out and I can lay a thread over the antique sampler. And these are divided up into sort of colour families. And if I want to reproduce using these silks, and I can't even open the box, I have to take out the colour family, and then I have to go through like this. And what I really want to do now is to find a storage system for skeins of silk where they're laid out individually. Now, when I was looking on the internet, I came across this storage system, and basically it's a skein storage caddy that stores up to 100 skeins on 4 different trays. So I ordered it. It was just over £10, and this is just plastic, and these little trays are I'm going to call it plastic. It probably isn't plastic, it's something else, but whatever it is, it's quite flimsy, and basically you open it up and you can store a skein that way. Now, at £10 to store 100 skeins, that system is going to cost a lot of money. With the Auvert Assoir, there are so many colours that that's going to be really, really expensive. So I'm hoping that I can find a different product that's going to be a little bit cheaper. And I was wondering if there's some sort of drawer divider in maybe acrylic which will be a lot sort of more durable and long lasting than this, where maybe I could have a drawer or drawers with a storage system, like little slots that I can put schemes in. So if anybody has any ideas of storage units for schemes of silk, whereby I can just see the colours laid out in front of me rather than being stored in colour families, please let me know. That will be so useful for me. Now, when I'm reproducing, it's really quite hard to match colours up to an antique when you're going like this. You are making a judgment call when you're matching colours up like that. So what I did was I bought another shade card, and these are really expensive. They're about £70 English pounds, and these change maybe every year as the dye lots are updated. So I bought a second one, and I removed all the little samples, and these little samples are real silk and they're on little cardboard boards. So what I do now is if we pretend this is the antique, I use these and lay them against the sampler. Then if I find one that I think is a good match, I then go and get the scheme. And what I like to do is to remove a piece of silk and lay it over the antique sampler, because you get a different intensity of colour with a thread as opposed to a block of the silk. I just thought you might like to see that little insight into how I match colours. So the other thing I do with DMC, this is a DMC shade card. This is much cheaper than the silk one. I think you can buy these for about £17. But as you can see, there's a lot of choice. I have a second shade card where I've cut all these out so that I can lay those onto the antique to match them up. Gosh, I've been waffling, haven't I? But it's nice for you to have an insight into how I get my colours for samplers. Anyway, I think that was probably all I wanted to chat about today. I hope that you've enjoyed looking at this beautiful sampler and Boomer's beautiful stitching. Her stitching really is exquisite. Do you want to have one more little peek before I sign off? Isn't that gorgeous? It always amazes me what you can create with needle and thread. Anyway, I'm going to take Bertie for that walk now, and when I come home in a few hours, I will be so inspired by this beautiful countryside and walking, and it's the time I do a lot of thinking and planning. And when I come home, I will be sitting down with another beautiful antique sampler, reproducing her so that I can share her with you. Bye bye.